I don't think people have a problem with neither one of those two matches not being in the main event. What they have is a marketing problem with the Royal Rumble. That's their complaint. Their complaint isn't about Jey Uso and Gunther and Charlotte and Tiffany not being in the main event. It's the marketing of the Royal Rumble winners being guaranteed a main event spot. Maybe it's time to adjust that.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on into another edition of Discussions on the Takedown on SI. How's it going? I'm Zack Heydorn. That's Rick Ucchino. Rick, WrestleMania in Vegas, less than 3 weeks away, my friend. How is WWE doing so far with this build?
Well, SP3 and I had a lengthy conversation about that last week when you were out, while you were out parading the kids around Disney.
Gallivanting.
Nice to see you survived. That encouraging.
I'm still here to talk about it. Yes.
I would say they took a step up this week for sure. I think this week was something that they really needed as far as advancing the Cody Rhodes and John Cena storyline. I feel like they connected a lot of the dots and gave us a lot of the missing pieces. There's still obviously the albatross out there of The Rock, right? Because if you look at John Cena's motivations behind the attack for attacking Cody Rhodes, it all centers around his love for the WWE Championship. But at the same time, he wants to take this symbol of mastery, as he calls it, and he wants to take it into retirement with him. And he wants to destroy professional wrestling and destroy WWE. And in doing that, and I still have a question of, okay, if that's his motivation's great. Why is The Rock okay with that if he's on the board of directors for TKO? That does not seem like something he should be on board with. So there's still some plot holes here or there, but it was nice to finally get an explanation from John Cena's side of things this week. It's an explanation that I can buy into. Again, I buy into everything that John is saying. My biggest problem has and I think he's delivered his promos masterfully. It's the Rock and the full connection there and lining up all the dots and connecting them together is the only thing that I'm hoping that eventually we get the full picture of. Like I said this on the show last week, I feel like we're in the middle of a Tarantino flick where we're getting, different acts at different times. And then at the end of it, it's all going to make sense, or at least that's my hope. I will say, coming out of Monday, like John Cena gave Cody Rhodes his absolute best shots. And Cody Rhodes, not only did he take those shots, but he returned some haymakers in and of himself. He is a rare breed. He is a guy like a Roman Reigns who can not only take his best shots, but just keep coming forward. And there's a reason why he is in the position that he is in now as the WWE champion, as the QB1 of WWE, as he likes to refer to himself. He proved why to me on Monday for sure.
I'm with you. I think this week has been really important for the build, especially that John Cena and Cody match. And we have another main event to talk about. That's going to be night 2's main event. And Cody made that abundantly clear in his promo. Night 1, WrestleMania Saturday, we now know officially it will be Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus CM Punk.
And people are pissed about it.
People aren't happy. And the thing is, people aren't happy, but you have to take the whole card into consideration here. Right. And did they make the right call on this? Is this a main event of WrestleMania? Should it be the main event as opposed to something else?
So the biggest complaint I saw about this is not the fact that the match itself was booked as the main event, because to me, this is a WrestleMania worthy match. And WWE is doing that thing where they're like, it's the biggest triple threat of all of WrestleMania. And I'll point out, okay, you did have women main event in a triple threat at WrestleMania 35. Mm-hmm. So, is this one bigger than that from a historical standpoint? Not really, but they're going to do the thing where they're going to dress it up and they're going to try to sell you on the fact that this is a main event, even though there is not a world title on the line, right? That's just what they do to kind of sell. Look, Punk, Rollins, Reigns, that's the closest that we're ever going to get to the Shield triple threat. match. And I have no problems with them putting this in the main event. And honestly, I think they kind of, I don't know. I'm trying to think how I want to say this, right? Because, listening to Triple H talk at, I believe it was the Elimination Chamber post-show press conference, where he's talking about, like, basically talking like it's an open competition. I'm like, yeah, it is. But, like, let's be honest. This is the one that's gotten the juicier stuff, the better build. Like, you can kind of stack the deck against the other matches if you really wanted to justify putting in what match you want in what card, right? Like, I think they could have done Rhea, Io, and Bianca in this spot if they had just gone with the story that the three of them have been telling on social media, right? If they have just gone that route and followed what Rhea has been saying and feeling and doing in her digital exclusives, and if they translated that character to the actual television live on Netflix every week, I think there would have been some real competition there for sure. I'm not saying that they sabotaged the women's match, right? But what I'm saying is clearly they have put more effort into this build than some of the other ones. So yeah, if it's an open competition, yeah, I think this one earned it. But again, the biggest complaint that I saw from people is, well, neither Royal Rumble winner is in the main event. Okay. All right. So let's analyze this.
Not the first time.
Not the first time it's happened. Think back to 2018. Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka won the Royal Rumbles. Neither one of them main evented that night. I'm trying to think. 2018, was that one of the Brock and Roman matches?
That's Brock and Roman, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's Brock and Roman. All right. So neither one of them main evented there. Hell, neither one of them won. Remember that. That was the night that Charlotte broke Asuka's undefeated streak. Okay?
Yeah.
That was a head scratcher.
In the second match of the night. Second match.
Right. And then that was also the night that they decided, instead of pulling the trigger on Shinsuke Nakamura, they decided to turn him into a chicken crap heel, and he and AJ Styles just started trading nut shots for several months as they fought over the WWE Championship, and never once did Shinsuke Nakamura win it. Okay? So that had some issues in and of itself, the least of which was neither one of them main evented WrestleMania. So if you look at it, what they have been able to do with Tiffany and Charlotte, has that warranted a main event spot? No, it hasn't. Just speaking bluntly, it has not. Has what they have done with Jey and Gunther until this week, has that warranted a main event spot? Speaking bluntly,
right.
It has not. So yeah, main event Jey Uso, world title match, all that stuff, right? Like, winner goes on to main event WrestleMania. I don't think people have a problem with neither one of those two matches not being in the main event. What they have is a marketing problem with the Royal Rumble. That's their complaint. Their complaint isn't about Jey Uso and Gunther and Charlotte and Tiffany not being in the main event. It's the marketing of the Royal Rumble winners being guaranteed a main event spot. Maybe it's time to adjust that.
Call it something else.
Yeah, you earn a world championship match at WrestleMania. Done. Like, it maybe not be as sexy, right, as main eventing WrestleMania. Okay, but that's not a guarantee. If it's not a guarantee, don't market it that way. Just say you earn a world championship match. That's it. End of story. And I like that, frankly, because there should be open competition. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself into having to choose a match that maybe on paper is generational and should be creating buzz and should be a main event worthy contest and might still be a great match. But for whatever reason, the talent involved just have not been able to fire together. They haven't been able to click like what has happened with Charlotte and Tiffany. So I like the fact that they need to keep themselves open and not have to say, well, we said this was the main event, so let's put this in the main event. No, just change the way you market the Royal Rumble. Problem solved.
I don't have a problem with this being the main event either, especially when you look at the rest of the card. There's not a standout match that this is replacing where you're like, no, that should be the main event and this is getting it. Like, that's not there. For better or worse, it's not there yet. And this one, I think, is your second most intriguing match. The one thing I do wish it had, and there's still time, it'd be nice if they found some kind of like stakes to put behind this. Like I think WrestleMania main events, you do genuinely want to have stakes. Not everywhere, Rockin' Cena won, didn't have any, but it had it inherently because it was Rockin' Cena. This, I don't think they found that yet. It's like what is this person going to have when they win? What does Roman have when he wins this match? What does Seth have? I don't mean championships. I don't mean number one contenderships, but I think just defining like what winning this means to these guys is going to matter a lot going into this. And I think that could convince a lot of people that actually, okay, I wasn't necessarily on board, but now I am. But the bigger issue is what I just said. There's not another match where you're like, it should be that one. And so why not?
Nobody feels like they've been robbed. Nobody feels like they've been.
No, absolutely right. Right. Do you think this should be marketed as CM Punk finally getting his main event, or is it? Because I've been in some discourse and like it's a cop out. It's not the main event he's been looking for. We all, he knows that. We know that. Like this is, not really a main event.
Now we're arguing semantics, right? Like what is the main event? What is not a main event? The fact is, it's WrestleMania. You're closing the show, right?
I think it is. I think it is a main event for what it's worth.
It's the main event. It's WrestleMania Saturday. Just because there is a WrestleMania Sunday doesn't mean you're not closing the night. You're not the last one to go on, right? You are. They are closing the show. There are two main events. And yeah, to me, it created such a great moment, with Paul Heyman on SmackDown telling CM Punk he was finally a WrestleMania main eventer. And whether Punk, you could convince me that he found out in that moment just by the way he reacted. Like he sold that incredibly, incredibly well. And maybe he knew it going in, and maybe just hearing the words meant the world to him that this finally happened, especially after last year where it looked like he and Seth were on the path to main eventing night one of WrestleMania. And then he tears his tricep and he ends up having to miss the entire year. And, he's still able to help elevate himself and Drew McIntyre. I was hesitant there because they really helped each other. But still had one of the best talked about feuds of the year, even though he wasn't able to wrestle until the summer, for crying out loud, which again shows you his value. Shows you his value and why he is as good as he is and why he calls himself the best in the world, because he doesn't even have to be an active competitor to sell you something. So, yeah, it created a great moment. It is a main event in my mind. I think it's a main event worthy match in my mind, and maybe they put some stakes on it. Maybe we'll see. The favor obviously is still out there. They could do something with Heyman. But here's the thing that I loved. Here's the thing that I loved about this on Friday. CM Punk and Seth Rollins for years have been very, very similar in the fact that they both desperately wanted that WrestleMania main event. Seth Rollins was handed a WrestleMania main event this past weekend, and he was furious about it. He was furious. He was handed something that he would have committed murder for just 2 years ago. And he was pissed because that means he has to share the spotlight with CM Punk. That's hatred. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of hatred. There's a lot of story between these three. And I think they're really going to ramp it up over the next 3 weeks, which is why this match is in the main event.
Any idea what, now that we've established this is going to be the main event, they're having a triple threat match.
Yeah.
Any idea what that favor may or may not be? It's like, do you think they've cleared it up? Let me take a step back. Hold on. Let me ask you a different question first. Punk dropping the line about it the way that he did as SmackDown went off the air. Does that tell you that favor is going to be a central part of the WrestleMania build, or is it just a red herring reminder that he still has this? Like, how did you read that? Because I think you could have read it two different ways.
Yeah, I don't know, because part of me is thinking maybe we find out what the favor is tonight on SmackDown or next week on SmackDown. And then that becomes your stakes, right? Because whatever it is, maybe it's something that's so egregious that Roman Reigns is like, no, F you. Like, what if Punk wants Heyman? Like, what if that's the favor? Like, I'm not saying it is, but just say, I want your wise man. Like, I want him to be my advocate again. right? Like that's what I want. That's my favor. I helped you, you helped me, you give me Paul back. And Roman's like, no, screw you. But at the same time, they could do that. What's in it for Rollins, right? Whatever the favor has to be, if that's what they're putting on the line, like it has to be something for Rollins that if he wins, there's that extra incentive for him. So I haven't thought too deeply about what it could be. So to me, it's more of a, hey, we're kicking this down the can. We're kicking this can down the road a little bit.
Okay. All right. In other WWE news, Miro.
How about that?
With WWE, Miro / Rusev coming back. When he left, he was, a lower card player, League of Nations guy, Rusev Day, but he had his run, as like a monster heel upper mid card guy too. United States champion, wrestled John Cena at WrestleMania. So I mean, he's a guy who's been all over the card in WWE, and he comes back in a very, very different situation than when he left. There's no Vince McMahon. The top talent's all different. Completely different landscape. Where does he fit?
That's a great question.
Does he fit?
That's a better question, right? Because, boy, oh boy. All right. So first off, shout out to PW Insider. They're the ones, Mike Johnson. They're the ones who reported this earlier in the week. Miro was spotted at the WWE PC in Orlando. And Fightful has been able to corroborate that part of the report. Not that he has put pen to paper. And so far there's not any indication that Lana is going to be, or CJ Perry would be coming back with him. Although I'm sure there are people who would want her to come back with him and have them be a package deal, especially now that they've been able to figure things out in their personal life together, which good on them for that. But yeah, I'm looking at this, right? Because, okay. Miro got released from his AEW contract in a batch that also included Ricky Starks, now Ricky Saints in NXT. That also included Malachi Black, presumably soon to be once again Aleister Black, already running vignettes for him on SmackDown. Not long after that, Rey Fenix got released. We know he's debuting on Friday Night SmackDown this week. They already are on a program right now where they don't know how to do anything of substance with Carmelo Hayes. They haven't figured out how to do anything of substance with Andrade, another AEW re-sign for WWE, a guy who was not happy with his position in AEW and then came over back to WWE. He has been back in WWE for over a year now. And they have done zilch with him. And Triple H preaches patience, and I get it. But damn, man, like, how patient do we have to be with some people before you do something with them? Now, some guys catch lightning in a bottle. Look at Penta. I think Penta is probably going to win an Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. I'm either him or Dominic Mysterio. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty confident one of those two guys is walking away with the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, right? Sure as hell ain't going to be Finn Balor. They don't like to give him wins. But this is another guy. You want to practice patience. We've been hearing about this Finn Balor singles push for years now, it seems, at this point. So maybe it will finally happen. But again, you have all of these different guys, and I'm like, okay, they brought in Ricky and they immediately put him in NXT because there wasn't a spot for him right now on the main roster. It'd be easier to introduce him to the main roster audience after WrestleMania is over, and I agree with that. But you also have Ethan Page, who is down there as well, who I think could contribute up on the main roster. And it's like, okay, where do all of these guys fit? I don't know. And it's a great problem to have, right? Because it's like, if you're building an NFL team, you don't, like, you could sit here and say, okay, well, we just signed, it would be expensive as hell, but humor me. We just signed Trey Hendrickson, Micah Parsons, and Myles Garrett. All right. Where are all those dudes playing on the defensive line? I don't know. Great problem to have. Let's see what cream rises to the top, right? Who gets hurt? Who does the audience gravitate toward, right? That's the great thing to have. Throw them out there. Put them all out there and see who the audience responds to. I guarantee you, though, Rusev is going to have a chance. Whether it's Miro, whether it's Rusev, he's going to have a chance. This is a guy that the WWE audience was behind, thoroughly behind. But Vince McMahon was stuck in his ways where he was going, no, they don't really like you. They're making fun of you, right? Like they're not in on Rusev Day. They're not going to like you. They don't like you. You're never going to be higher than my stereotypical foreign bad guy heel who's going to win the United States Championship because America, right? Like that's, no, we can't have a Bulgarian or Russian or whatever you're going to be the United States champion. What are we doing? By God, it's blasphemy, right? Like we can't have that. That tired old trope. He was handed that trope, still got over with the audience. Vince didn't want to believe it. He was never elevated to what he could be. And then we saw in AEW what he could be. The Redeemer, God's favorite champion. We saw that he could cut a promo, right? Like we saw that he could connect with the audience and he could be a total badass in the ring. I don't know what the disconnect was between him and Tony Khan. But that man signed a multi-year extension, then wrestled 8 times since 2022. I'm ready to see this man on television. I'm ready to see this man on television a lot. And I want, whether he's Rusev or Miro, I really hope he comes back and finds some kind of WWE version of the Redeemer, of God's favorite champion, because that is a money gimmick. If Lana comes back with him, CJ Perry comes back with him, whatever, great. Put him on my TV screen. I promise you he's going to connect with an audience.
I like the idea that because look, WWE now, I mean, and more than ever before, they are a wrestling company, yes, but they got to feed the mouths of a lot of different platforms. You've got Netflix, you've got USA Network, you've got Tubi, you've got YouTube, you have Peacock. I mean, on and on and on and on. And that's just going to grow as the company grows. You need talent in order to do that. So this acquisition of talent like Aleister Black, like Rusev, like Andrade, like they first of all, they need a big roster. But the other thing is when you do that and you put a lot of guys, like you say, out there in the game, get them some playing time, there's a competitive spirit that's there from performance to like put your absolute best out there, because there's another person right behind you in NXT or on the SmackDown roster that's waiting for you, or that's waiting for your spot. And I think it could with Vince McMahon, it didn't always breed healthy competition, but there should be a level of pride in your work and like, hey, I'm getting this shot. I need to be the best. I want to keep being on TV. I need to connect with this audience. And so in a perfect world, like it would create an environment where you just get all your talent giving you 110% every single time, because nothing's guaranteed unless you make it to the Cody level or the Roman level or the Punk level. And, maybe Rusev ends up as a Braun Strowman, right? Where he's in main events on SmackDown and that's what he does. And he's going to maybe a tag team champion here or there. Maybe that's a ceiling for him. Who knows? But there is a connection that he has. And maybe he becomes Damian Priest. Maybe he gets a run with the World Heavyweight Championship. Maybe, there's always that opportunity for, this guy just exploded. Let's put him in a main event with Roman Reigns, like LA Knight. I mean, those stories are all over the roster. So he could very well be that also. I think I would purposefully, if I was Paul Levesque, I would go in without expectations. I'd be like, hey, we're going to give this guy something. He's going to get on TV. He's going to wrestle. He's going to work. But I wouldn't be telling Rusev like, hey, you're guaranteed world champion. Like, cause you don't know. But as long as you give him the opportunity, that I think is a good enough guarantee for me. I want to see him back. I want to see what he can bring to the table.
Right. And here's the thing I will say about this before we move on to the Owen Hart brackets that were released this week. When you have a deep roster, the way that you have, like playing time, like you said, becomes important. Having something of substance becomes important. Mm-hmm. One thing Triple H, my suggestion would be, we have had enough with the endurance test of world title reigns. You have way too deep of a bench to have Roman Reigns hold the belt for 4 years and then Cody come in and hold it for a year, potentially even longer. To have Gunther hold the Intercontinental Championship for 666 days and then almost immediately win the World Heavyweight title and hold that for Maybe he loses it at WrestleMania. I'm not fully convinced he's losing to Jey Uso yet. But hold that for months at a time. Like, I think one of the things that Vince was able to really kind of balance out in the late 90s and the early 2000s was knowing that he had several top players. He had Triple H, he had Shawn Michaels, he had The Rock, he had Mick Foley, he had Stone Cold Steve Austin, he had The Undertaker, he had Kane, he had Kurt Angle. All of them got runs with multiple runs. He had Chris Jericho, had multiple runs with the WWE Championship during that time. If you look at The Rock, all of his WWE Championship reigns, what did come cumulative? Are they 120 days? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. There were a lot of short reigns in there, and that doesn't mean that they're not impactful or that they didn't matter or that we look down on The Rock any worse than when he held all of a sudden. Look at Edge. Look at all the world championships that man held. That man lost the WWE title, then won the World Heavyweight Championship in the same damn night. In the same night. Like, people don't, as long as they're impactful and they're meaningful, it doesn't matter how long the reign has been. And I think part of the problem with Cody and his run, not that Cody has a problem. Like I said, I gave him his props. I think he's clearly the one guy, the 1A guy in WWE right now. But never has his WWE title reign felt like it's been in danger this entire time until right now. Right now, a full year later, with this stacked of a roster, can't be the case. Just can't be the case.
Yeah. Well said. All right. Well, let's pivot to Rusev's previous home, AEW. Last night, or no, 2 nights ago on Dynamite, they announced the Owen Hart Cup brackets for both the men's and women's tournaments. Both tournament winners are going to get world championship matches at All In July. And I'm going to read the brackets, and then we're going to analyze each one and just talk about how this stuff fleshes out. So the men's bracket quarterfinal matches are Will Ospreay versus Kevin Knight. That's taking place at AEW Dynasty. We got Brody King against Konosuke Takeshita. That's one side. The other side, it's Mark Briscoe, Kyle Fletcher, Hangman Page against Wildcard. That's the men's bracket. On the women's side of things, quarterfinal matches, Jamie Hayter versus Billy Starks, Thunder Rosa against Chris Statlander. We have Julia Hart against Mercedes Moné. That is at AEW Dynasty as well. And then we've got Harley Cameron against the ROH Women's World Champion Athena as your final quarterfinal match. So we'll stick with the women's tournament to start. This is stacked, man. And I'll say stacked from a great match perspective, of course. But also, what I like about this is, like, you've got people in this tournament that, like, should be in this tournament. These are former champions. These are former world champions. These are former TBS champions. These are current TBS champions and world champions. I think sometimes, at least in my opinion, AEW has kind of had these tournaments and has featured people that would just be fun to have in a tournament, not necessarily people where it's like, well, really? Like, and in the men's tournament, I think you see some of this with some guys this year. But this women's bracket, holy cow, this is good stuff. I think it opens up a whole multitude of opportunities for cool matches, cool storylines, cool angles. I give this a thumbs up, and there hasn't even been 1 second of action yet.
Yeah, I think if I was going to make any kind of adjustment, I'd want to get Deonna Purrazzo in there somewhere.
Okay.
Like, she can't even get into the Owen Hart tournament. Like, what are we doing with her? Like, that it's very, very confusing. It's very, very confusing. The way she came into the company and then now, like, there's like nothing for her. There's like literally nothing for her to do right now. So I'm a Billy Starks guy who's not. I would put Deonna Purrazzo in the first round against Jamie Hayter. Not going to change my prediction on who I think is walking away from that match. The intriguing part about this bracket is the fact that Athena and Mercedes are on the same side, which means if they were to advance, they would not be facing each other in the finals. They would be facing each other in the semifinals, which to me tells me one thing. Neither one of them are winning. I know you can look at both of those ladies and go, those are the two clear-cut favorites. You have Athena. Has she lost a match in 2 years? Ring of Honor Women's Champion for over 800 days and counting. Mercedes has not lost in AEW. Undefeated in singles action. successful title reigns as the TBS champion. Those two should be the clear-cut favorites to win this. But at the same time, when the winner of this tournament gets a shot at presumably, Timeless Tony Storm, who is defending her title Sunday at Dynasty against Megan Bayne. We'll have our AEW Dynasty prediction show drop on the channel later this afternoon, so you can check that out and get our answers on who we think is going to win that. But let's just say, for argument's sake, it's still Timeless Tony Storm, who's the AEW Women's Champion, come All In. Do I think for a second that it's going to be Mercedes or Athena that's facing her? Nope. Because I think Athena and Mercedes are facing each other. I think that's going to be, we're going to get that match. I think, because again, looking at that side of the bracket, I don't see Julia Hart, as I yank my headphones out here. I don't see Julia Hart beating Mercedes this Sunday. And I love Harley Cameron. I don't see her getting past Athena. Like, I don't see them teasing us with this match and not give it to us at least once. My guess is that we're going to have that match. There's going to be some kind of a wonky finish that's going to put Mercedes over to set up title versus title at All In Texas. I think Mercedes and Athena face each other with the Ring of Honor World Championship and the TBS title on the line in Texas. And at the same time, you can really put somebody over by giving them the win over Mercedes in this tournament while also still protecting her without the TBS championship on the line. And I think that 100% has to go to Jamie Hayter. Jamie Hayter is somebody who was the AEW Women's Champion when she left the company with the back problem. She came back. She finished up her story with Saraya before she bolted the company. And then she's run into some visa issues. Now she's back. It is time to fire her back up and put her back into the position she was when she got hurt last year. And I think her winning this tournament, getting the rub over Mercedes, and facing Timeless Tony Storm at All In Texas. Be nicer if that match was in the UK, but whatever. All In Texas this year. Tony Storm, Jamie Hayter. That's what I'm going with.
I'm a little more bullish on Mercedes winning this because what I can't shake is that Double or Nothing is going to happen before All In. So it would seem to me that it would be possible to do exactly what you outlined with Mercedes and Athena, but Mercedes actually win this tournament. So she gets the shot at Tony Storm, but she has that feud with Athena before that match. So, and they run it, they do the title versus title at Double or Nothing instead. So like it works the same way. Mercedes wins. It's underhanded tactics or some kind of shady win. You run the match back. You do it again. You do it at Double or Nothing. There you put a bow on whatever that is. Maybe Athena beats her. Maybe Athena gets that win back and wins both titles. Yes, Mercedes loses, but it frees her up to go on to All In and have like a proper straight up feud just for the AEW Women's title. I'm bullish on that. I'd throw my money in that bucket at this point in time. However, Jamie Hayter is a massively underutilized talent. So like if she's somebody that you look at and you're like, hey, we got to put some more. We got to get, it's time to ramp her back up. Like that would be a great way to do it. So it's, I don't think what you've outlined is a bad idea. I don't know. I think Mercedes Moné and Tony Storm is a bigger match than Hayter and Storm.
Yeah. But I think the match of that weekend, especially considering the fact that Athena is from Texas, I think that's the match.
That's true too. Yeah.
That's the match that takes place. And that's the match that counts the main event, especially if, let's, again, for argument's sake, say Jon Moxley and Orange Cassidy are wrestling for the AEW World Championship at All In. I think, even though it's only for the TBS title and Ring of Honor World title, whatever it is, I think that's a match that could be the main event, Mercedes versus Athena. The other thing you could do, right? The other thing that you could do is you don't have these two face each other in the tournament, right? You can have Mercedes screw over Athena against her new tag team partner and Harley Cameron. You could do kind of like a, an underdog, a Cinderella run with Harley Cameron to the finals here, where she gets past both Athena and Mercedes. She gets past Athena thanks to Mercedes, and then she gets past Mercedes thanks to maybe a disqualification or something like that, where you could still protect Mercedes. And then you do Jamie and Harley in the finals of the tournament. Maybe if that case, you're also setting up a point where you're going to have a white hot babyface Harley Cameron, and we know Toni Storm is a babyface. Maybe use that moment to turn Jamie Hayter heel. Then you have Jamie Hayter going up against the babyface timeless Toni Storm at All In. I'm just spitballing here, but there's options. That's the thing that I love about the tournament. There's options there.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Now I'll say there's less options in the men's field. They're just
coming out two guys.
They're just straight up is. It's Hangman Page or it's Will Ospreay. That's who we're looking at here. I really like. They had some injuries to work around with this tournament with Jay White. Okay, it is what it is. But we kind of got like some guys in this tournament that you just obviously know are not going to be, in the main event of All In for the world title. Brody King, Mark Briscoe. I mean, I would even put, Kevin Knight, obviously, Konosuke Takeshita, I'd probably put in that bucket. It's just not going to happen. There's two guys in this tournament where you can see it going their way right now. Right now, we know. We don't know who the wild card is yet. That question's coming, but this field is a little bit more predictable. It's full of good matches, no question about it. But to me, this comes down to Page and Will Ospreay, and then you go from there.
If Swerve wins the title on Sunday, Hangman Adam Page is winning. That's what I think. Yeah. If Swerve wins the title on Sunday, I think that telegraphs Hangman's win. If that doesn't happen, until he doesn't show up, you cannot convince me that Darby Allin is not showing up as a wild card and winning this tournament to face Jon Moxley in All In Texas.
Oh my God, Rick.
I'm sorry to put it out there.
Man, dude.
Sorry to put it out there. I don't know what his schedule is. I don't know if he's on Mount Everest right now. I don't know when he's due back. I don't know. But to me, that has always been what I feel like the end game is for this whole Death Rider situation. So I'm going to ride or die, pun intended, with that until it doesn't happen or it does happen.
Okay.
So I'll go Darby Allin wins the tournament as the wild card for right now.
I was thinking more like Josh Alexander would be a fun wild card or something to that effect.
Sure.
Darby, Darby would be a fun wild card. I just, I don't know. I think you're right though. If Swerve Strickland wins the title, this is Adam Page's to lose at that point, and I think that's probably he's a suitable, viable guy to win. He's a viable guy to win this tournament.
They wrestle in Texas. There's a clean winner, and then they actually shake their hands as equals.
Yeah.
At the All in Texas.
Yeah. Yep. Two baby faces. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep tabs on this tournament as it goes, so we'll probably check in on a handful of these episodes moving forward. But thanks so much for joining us. This is the Discussions on the Takedown on SI YouTube channel. Like this video, please, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Lots of cool stuff to check out. SP3's got an interview there. I have an Austin interview there. You've got a great interview with Saraya up. Check it out, guys. Any other plugs you want to make here, Rick, before we wrap up?
Nope. I gotta go get dinner started.
There you go. Bon appetit.
I got hungry kids who are coming home in 10 minutes, so I got to go get that going.
Feed the kids, man. Feed them. See you guys.
They're eating me out of house and home. Jesus, help me, Lord. Watch this video so I can buy more groceries.